Leo sits in a dark office at midnight. He adjusts a single comma in a report that his boss already approved 3 hours ago. The silence feels heavy. His heart beats fast, even though the room is still. He feels a strange need to make everything perfectly flawless. This behavior is not about being a good worker. It is a slow and silent way for a person to destroy their own progress. The brain creates a cage made of high standards. It uses these rules to stop the individual from ever feeling truly safe or finished. Everything looks successful from the outside. People see a winner. Inside, the machinery of self-sabotage is grinding away at his peace of mind every day. The individual believes they are reaching for the top. In reality, they are building a wall to keep the world from seeing any flaws. This process is called the perfectionist paradox. It turns every small win into a heavy burden that the person must carry forever without rest. The mechanism functions by hiding fear behind a mask of excellence. It ensures that the individual stays busy so they never have to feel. It is a quiet trap. The person works harder to escape the pressure, but the harder they work, the more the pressure grows and tightens. The machinery is now running. It does not stop for sleep or joy. It only demands more work and more precision until the person breaks. Young Sarah brings home a test with a high score. Her father looks at the grade and asks why it was not 100. The air in the room changes instantly. Sarah learns that love is not free. It is something she must earn with every single correct answer. The child begins to watch the faces of adults very closely. She looks for signs of disappointment or small cues that she has failed. The brain starts to wire itself for survival. It links personal worth to external results. Without a trophy, the child feels she does not exist. This early social conditioning creates a deep neural pathway. The brain decides that being average is the same thing as being totally invisible or hated. The mechanism is born in these quiet moments of conditional praise. It is a software update that tells the child to never stop moving forward. As Sarah grows, she stops playing for fun. Every hobby becomes a race. Every game is a test of her value as a human being. The internal dialogue becomes a strict judge. It repeats the words of the adults until the child can no longer tell the voices apart. By the time the individual reaches adulthood, the pattern is solid. The brain has forgotten how to simply be. It only knows how to do. The individual seeks out difficult tasks to prove they are still worthy. They are chasing a feeling of safety that never actually arrives for them. The machinery is now part of the soul. It operates in the background of every choice. It dictates who the person must become to survive. Social circles reinforce this. People praise the hard worker. No one sees the scared child hiding behind the big house and the expensive car. The pattern is now locked. It is the only way the brain knows how to navigate the world. It is a permanent shield against rejection. Success becomes a drug. The brain needs higher and higher doses to feel okay. The cost of the drug is the person's entire internal life. The individual is now a high performer by design. The origin is forgotten, but the drive remains. It is a ghost haunting a very busy machine. If this is already making sense to you, it means you're starting to notice patterns most people never see. Subscribe, and let's keep exploring how the mind really works. Now, this is where things start to get uncomfortable. The sun rises, and Mark is already checking his emails. His thumb moves in a rhythmic flick, refreshing the screen every few seconds. The brain does not wait for a conscious command to begin. It has already calculated the day's potential failures before he even stands up. This is the preemptive strike mechanism. The mind stays in a state of high alert to catch errors before the world can see them. Mark finds himself halfway through a complex spreadsheet. He does not remember starting it. The fingers move with a chilling, robotic, mechanical precision. The individual is no longer the pilot of their own life. They have become a passenger inside a machine built for maximum, tireless output. Awareness lags behind execution by several minutes. The body completes a task while the mind is already 3 steps ahead in a future crisis. The nervous system is stuck in a loop of fight or flight. It treats a missed phone call like a physical attack from a predator. The brain releases cortisol to keep the muscles tense. It ensures the person stays sharp, but it also prevents the heart from truly resting. The pattern is so smooth that it feels like a personality trait. Mark calls it ambition, but the biology calls it a chronic stress response. The machinery ignores physical pain or hunger. It views the body as a mere tool that must be pushed until the objective is finally met. Every interaction is filtered through this lens of utility. The individual looks at people and sees only obstacles or assets for their current goals. The autopilot is now the dominant force. It silences the inner voice that asks for a break. It replaces human needs with cold, hard metrics. By noon, the person has achieved more than most. Yet, they feel nothing. The reward center of the brain is numb from constant overstimulation. The individual moves to the next task without a second thought. The loop is closed. There is no beginning and there is no ending. The machinery has achieved total control. It runs in the dark, beneath the surface of thought. It is the ghost that drives the tired man. The brain is a master of survival. It keeps this painful loop active because the loop provides a secret sense of total, unwavering control. If the individual is always working, they are never vulnerable. The constant motion acts as a shield against the unpredictable nature of the world. The hidden payoff is the avoidance of shame. As long as the person is the best, they believe they are immune to being discarded. The machinery creates a false sense of safety. It tells the brain that exhaustion is the only price worth paying for a steady life. The brain prefers the known pain of overwork to the unknown terror of being ordinary. It chooses the cage because the cage feels very solid. Every high-performance achievement releases a tiny spark of dopamine. It is just enough to keep the machine running for one more difficult hour. The individual becomes addicted to the stress. Without the pressure, the brain feels empty and dangerously exposed to its own deep, quiet thoughts. The pattern protects the ego from the reality of human limits. It allows the person to believe they are more than just a biological being. If you've noticed this pattern in your own life, describe the moment it became clear. Someone reading may recognize themselves in your story. The brain views relaxation as a threat to the system. It interprets a day off as a crack in the wall where failure might enter. The machinery rewards the person for staying in the trap. It equates the weight of the burden with the value of the person's very soul. To stop the machine would be to face the silence. The silence contains the questions the individual has been running from for many long years. The brain maintains the sabotage because it fears the alternative. It would rather burn out than face the truth of its own fragile nature. The loop is a survival strategy that has outlived its use. It is a wartime law being applied to a time of total, peaceful silence. The individual stays trapped because the trap is the only home they know. The bars are made of gold, but they are still bars. Elena looks in the mirror after 16 hours of work. She does not see a tired woman. She sees a high-level, elite, unstoppable professional. The ego merges with the exhaustion. The pain in her neck is now a badge of honor that she displays to her entire world. The brain stops distinguishing between the self and the work. It creates a story that says without the output, the person is absolutely nothing. The role of the reliable one becomes a permanent skin. The individual cannot take it off, even when they are alone in their bed. The mechanism has won the war for the soul. It has turned a survival tactic into the very core of who the person believes themselves to be. Friends and family reinforce the mask. They praise the strength. They rely on the machine, which makes the machine feel it must never ever break. The individual starts to look down on those who rest. They view a balanced life as a sign of weakness or a lack of real ambition. The machinery is no longer an external force. It is the voice that says, I. It is the hand that reaches for the heavy, heavy stone. By choosing this identity, the person avoids the void. They fill the empty space of their existence with the loud, grinding noise of being busy. The role is now solidified in the neural tissue. It is a diamond-hard shell that protects the soft, scared human center from the harsh, cold light. David walks into a birthday party and immediately scans the room for tasks. He cannot see the joy. He only sees a disorganized, messy event. The brain filters reality through the lens of a project manager. It ignores the beauty of the moment to find things that need to be fixed. The individual loses the ability to perceive enough. To the mechanism, everything is a work in progress that is currently failing a high-standard test. A sunset is just a deadline for the day. A conversation is just a data exchange. The richness of human life is flattened into a simple list. The machinery distorts the faces of loved ones. Their concern looks like an intrusion. Their request for time looks like a threat to the current mission. The The person lives in a world of must and should. The world of want and feel has been erased by the heavy fog of constant, daily duty. If you've noticed this pattern in your own life, describe the moment it became clear. Someone reading may recognize themselves in your story. The brain interprets a lack of stress as a signal of danger. If things are calm, the individual feels that they have missed a very big problem. The filtered reality is a lonely place. No one can reach the person behind the wall of tasks. They are trapped in a very busy, quiet desert. The perception of time changes completely. A minute spent sitting still feels like an hour of wasted potential. The clock is a cruel, ticking, loud master. The individual is blind to their own suffering. They see the red flags of burnout and think they are just signals to work much faster than before. The machinery dictates what is real. It says that only the result matters. The process of living is just an annoying obstacle to the final, perfect goal. The world becomes a series of problems to be solved. The person forgets that they are a human being who is allowed to simply exist and breathe. The pattern is a lens that turns a garden into a graveyard. Everything is dying if it is not currently growing at a very high, rapid rate. The individual is a prisoner of their own eyes. They see a world that demands a hero, so they never stop trying to save the day alone. Maya stands in the kitchen. She sees her hand reaching for her phone to check an email she knows will only cause her stress. She stops. For 1 second, the machinery pauses. She observes the hunger for the crisis. She feels the pull of the old, dark gravity. The brain does not stop the impulse. It simply begins to record the impulse as it happens. The observer is born inside the skull. Awareness is not a cure. It is a light turned on in a room that is still very messy and filled with broken things. The individual starts to see the strings. They notice the moment the heart rate climbs before a single word has even been spoken aloud. The narrative of hard work begins to crack. It looks less like a virtue and more like a very sophisticated internal defense system. The perspective shifts from "this is happening to me" to "I am doing this to myself." The victim becomes the quiet, hidden architect. Nothing changes in the outside world. The deadlines remain. The boss still shouts. The children still need to be fed and also clothed. Inside, the machinery feels heavy. It feels loud. The individual can no longer pretend the noise is a natural part of the quiet wind. The brain resists the new sight. It tries to pull the curtain back down. It offers a new problem to distract from the new truth. The individual sees the bait. They see the hook. They may still bite the hook, but they do so with their eyes wide open. This shift creates a strange, new exhaustion. It is the weight of knowing that the exit has always been right there in the wall. The mirror is no longer a friend. It shows the person who builds the maze. It shows the person who chooses to stay inside it. David knows he is procrastinating. He knows the last-minute rush will hurt his head. He knows the quality of the final work will suffer. He sits on the couch. He watches the clock. He feels the familiar pressure building behind his eyes like a rising, dark, cold tide. The brain recognizes the awareness. It integrates the knowledge into the loop. Now, the sabotage includes the guilt of knowing better than before. The individual watches themselves fail in slow motion. The machine runs on the same tracks, even though the driver is now screaming, "Stop." The loop is quiet because it is internal. To the world, David is just busy. To David, he is a ghost watching a tragedy. The machinery adapts to the new data. It uses the awareness to create a new layer of effort. Thinking about the problem becomes the problem. The high-functioning mind treats self-help like another task. It tries to solve the sabotage with more of the same, frantic, crushing energy. The individual reads books about peace with a desperate, warlike intensity. They try to relax with the same force they use for work. The loop continues because the nervous system is still calibrated to the storm. A calm sea feels like a very slow, agonizing death. Awareness without a change in the body is just a more expensive form of suffering. The brain remains a loyal servant to the old. David finishes the project at 4 a.m. He feels the relief. He also feels the shame. The cycle has completed its long, inevitable turn. The machine is ready for tomorrow. It does not care about the insight. It only cares about the friction that keeps the motor running. The individual stands before the glass. The reflection is no longer a hero or a martyr. It is a biological machine designed to avoid the silence. The face is a map of self-inflicted wounds. Every line of stress was drawn by a hand that claimed it was only trying to help the self. The mirror reveals the truth of the identity. The high-functioning label was never a gift. It was a clever cage built to keep the soul very busy. The brain recoils from the image. It tries to find a new task to fix the reflection. It wants to buy a product to heal the tired skin. But the eyes do not blink. They see the machinery of the ego laid bare. They see the small, frightened child who is still trying to be good. The confrontation is silent. There are no words to describe the weight of a life spent running from a shadow that is actually the self. The individual realizes that the success was a distraction. The money, the status, and the praise were just fuel for the fire that burned the house. The mirror does not offer a solution. It only offers the truth. The person staring back is the one who chooses to stay in the dark. The final mirror is a cold place. It is where the unseen machinery stops being unseen. It is where the individual must finally own the entire broken clock. The brain seeks a way out of the gaze. It wants to look at a phone. It wants to check a list. It wants to be anywhere else. The individual stays. They look at the hands that broke the peace. They look at the mind that invented the war. They see the whole loop. The confrontation is the end of the mystery. The unseen machinery is now just a pile of gears on the floor. The individual is finally, truly alone. The loop remains open. The machine does not stop because it is seen. It simply continues to turn with a new, hollow sound in the quiet air. The individual walks away from the mirror. They return to the desk. They see the work waiting for them like a hungry, familiar, old, gray dog. The pattern is still there. The brain still seeks the friction. The nervous system still craves the hit of the stress that feels like a home. The only difference is the silence. The excuses no longer work. The stories of having to or needing to have lost their old, magical, blinding power. The machinery of behavior is a heavy thing to carry. It is a suit of lead that the individual chooses to wear every single morning at dawn. The ghost struggle continues. The person sabotages the win. They break the peace. They create the fire. But now, they know they are the match. The brain is a stubborn thing. It loves its loops more than its freedom. It prefers the cage it knows to the sky it has never actually touched. We observe the mechanism. We name the parts. We watch the gears turn. But the hand that turns the key belongs to the one who is watching. If you have recognized the machinery, the work has begun. The mirror is always there. The loop is always turning. The choice is a quiet, heavy thing. This has been a look into the unseen. The machinery is yours. The patterns are yours. The silence is the only thing that is truly, deeply, finally real. Follow the pattern to its end. Watch the self until the self becomes a stranger. This is the only way to see the machine for what it is.